playing really well. I know they had a kind of a sudden blow, lost a really talented, good player that's been dominant in our league. And I know they'll rally around her. We always hate to hear about an injury to anybody. And I'm sure Joni and her staff will. They played great in the second half. The players will rally around Aisha, um, but they played well. I think they've got 3 wins in the league, which I think puts you in the middle of the pack. I'm sure they're looking at this as an opportunity to continue moving up in the pack. We've always had close games with them. It's always a defensive struggle. They're so good defensively. We did a good job guarding them last year too for a half. I think we held them to 20 points for a half, and then lost a close one at the buzzer, and kind of spiraled our season from that point. I think it was that started. I think we had won a game that ended that win streak, and we didn't win another game the rest of the year. So always a tough matchup. They're rugged. Know they're going to be uber prepared. Somebody you play twice, you tend to have a lot more film on them. So we will not have the luxury other than a half of basketball to see what they're like without Koulibaly. So they may come in here and run some stuff that we've not even seen because they didn't know they weren't going to have it the other night. So they had to adjust on the fly. Now they've got a week to plan, so we'll see how it goes.
All right, Ethan.
Yeah, Mike, since you brought it up with Koulibaly being out, who on their team, do you just maybe expect to be players that are going to have to pick up their scoring from? Because I think she was leading them in scoring, right?
Yeah, if not, she's capable of on a given night getting 20, 25, whatever. I know it'll be by committee. I know it'll be a few points here for everybody, maybe a few more minutes for Jada Malone off the bench, a few more touches in the post. But to answer your question, Talia Parker, like it's a kid we've all seen play. She's a local Texas area kid. We've seen her play all the way through. She is playing already, was gaining confidence. I think this probably gives her even more freedom, more touches. And then, Soleil Williams hurt us last year as well, but it could be any of them. But my guess is it's Parker. That's kind of how we prepared yesterday. The news about Koulibaly came out right in the middle of practice. And some of y'all have been to practice. We tape numbers on jerseys. And we had, one of our guys' practice team was wearing number 5. And I say, you can take that jersey off. We hate to hear it, but we're not going to be preparing for her anymore. So we put 21 in that role. And that's just a sheer guess. I don't know. They may have different plans. I'm sure it'll be by committee, but I would expect Parker.
And then you said you were just talking to Izzy about life after basketball. I'm curious, does she have, professional basketball aspirations? Like what's it like, that conversation?
Like you would expect with any kid, that's all over the map. It's like, I want to play. I don't want to, it's like, I want to coach. I want to do this. I want to go into life after, it's all over at this point in time. And I try not to bring it too much up, but like when we have a little bit of time, we visit about that because, through now, is this my 25th cycle of kids? It's pretty abrupt once the season's over. It's like, you build up and then wham, real life starts. And I think we have to kind of immerse them a little bit. So I try to hit her once a week or once every couple of, when there's just a natural break. I don't try to force it. We don't have a set coffee meeting or anything, but it varies. She's just kind of gathering information as you would expect from, I don't know how well you've gotten to know her, but she's not going to make a decision that's not well informed. She's got a lot of great questions. She's got a lot of great people, support system, very mature in it. I think she's keeping her options open. There's no question that if she decides to play beyond college, that she can. There's so many opportunities, and again, just based on people from the past that have had the similar desires, there's no question that she can do that. But she has to want to, So we're just trying to make sure we've got 3 paths prepared. One all basketball, one no basketball, in that kind of middle lane. It's kind of hedging your bets, seeing if she wants to go into coaching, try to get her to the Final Four, in Tampa, try to get her involved in some of those things that, young aspiring coaches get into. So I just want her to be well informed, not trying to overwhelm, not trying to take her focus off what we've got still to play with, but nonetheless, got to make sure that, you don't wait till the last minute and just spring it on a kid and let them go once they turn the uniforms in.
I got one more. Is just you've been through a gauntlet of games where you look up at the SEC standings and teams you played are almost all just at the top. You're going through a stretch now with a lot of teams kind of in the similar range as you. How important are, I guess, this next little batch of games?
Uh, we've talked about it. It's not like we didn't know what we were getting into. I don't know if Fuller. I asked Fuller to do a project yesterday to where you looked at the number of wins that our opponents have, and I think we were second, weren't we, Fuller? Is he still on here?
Yep, second.
Yeah, like South Carolina's team has won. Their opponents have won 303 games. I think ours is 283 or 93.
98, 298.
298. Like that is absolutely ridiculous. I look at it's 20 wins, 17 wins, 19 wins. We played two teams that have been number one, two teams that have been number two, three that have been number four. So I think what's important is where we're at mentally. The fatigue it can cause your body when you feel like you're improving, but there's really no way to prove it. Because we are a sport that has a scoreboard. So I think where we're at mentally, as likewise with our opponents that are in the same boat. I think there's 13 teams in the Power Five that have 0 or 1 wins in their league through 7 or 8 games, which has never happened. It's kind of due to the new conference alignment, but I think the team that handles it the best mentally will be the team that doesn't play on the first day of the SEC tournament. And we do have several of those coming up. It's the way the schedule fell. And how, going through the hard times make you go through them. So we'll see if we've polished up or been ground down. I don't know that this one particular game is going to determine that, but I do think this next run, like you pointed out, will determine how we kind of feel about the end of the year. We've tried to approach it that way, the way our practices have been, building up to this. Let's take advantage of the fact that we have played against some really hard teams, and the mistakes that we made and the things that we have gotten better at, and let's see if it shows up. A&M, I don't necessarily put in that category because they beat Kentucky. They played very close with, they beat Ole Miss. 2 of their wins are against the top of the league. So, I think this is one of those games we're still going to be a prohibitive underdog, but I do think it's, they don't have a ranking out there beside their number. So.
Evan.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Curious for you, when you kind of look at a lot of one of the big themes of the season is it seems like there's the teams that you're playing are letting Izzy get her 25, 30 points at pretty much every single game and then kind of seeing who else can beat you. So I'm curious, when you look at the upcoming schedule with some of these games that are against the teams not at the top, how do you get some of your tertiary scorers like Avera or Keats and Jenna Lawrence going and continue some of the good momentum that they've had some of the past couple of games?
I'm going to prickle at you a little bit. Don't take this the wrong way. There ain't anybody letting Izzy do anything. Okay.
Yeah.
They are still trying to guard her. I've seen the other coaches, other benches reacting furiously when she's able to do what she's doing. So there's no anybody saying, and by the way, she's faced double teams. She's faced early hedges. She's faced running at the ball. She's faced every defense that Plum saw her senior year. That's the only comparison I could ever have. Dungy never faced this. Because we maybe had, I think you used the word tertiary, which I actually know what that means. Okay. I know what that means because I had a very good educator when it got to the secondary and tertiary. I forgot what the 4th level is called, but it's important. I'm not trying to downgrade. Your question is a great one. Everybody you've mentioned has had a night. Keats has had a couple nights. Kiki's had some nights. It was good to see Jenna, see it go through the hoop for her the other night. Vera's had some pretty steady moments. We can't win. Nobody can win in this league with a primary scorer. It's never happened. There's always been secondary and tertiary scorers that take some of that. It's pressure. Take some of that pressure off. I do think the opponents that we have coming up are very good scout-laden teams. I think they will be cut the head off the snake, make Izzy pass it teams like Alabama did. And just flood the lane. So the way you do it is you continue to encourage those kids to shoot. I stopped practice 3 times yesterday. when, one of those three people that you mentioned would turn down a shot and say, no. You've got to shoot that shot. We all want you to shoot that shot. And I'd make everybody in the gym raise their hand. Who wants them to shoot that shot? Every hand would go up, Jenna, shoot it. Kiki, shoot it. Keith, shoot it. I think if we want to go through this last 9 games, I think we have, is that right? Nine left? 9 conference games?
Yep.
9. If we want to go through these last 9 with a better record than we have the first 7, then Izzy has to be consistent. And we do need 2 or 3 of those people to shoot it like they're capable, defend like they're been doing in practice, and just stay healthy. If we can do that, then I think that record in those last 9 games can be percentage-wise better than our first 7.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Dudley?
First of all, you mentioned the pass for Izzy. Is that partial, that possibility of her playing another year, is that something else she's considering?
Yeah, and then it sounded like that was really gaining a lot of positive momentum, Dud. And then I don't think it got brought up at the last meeting like a lot of people hoped it would. So I think a little bit of that steam has been gone from the time I talked about it at the last press conference. It didn't go through the oversight committee and the voting group. So I don't know. There's still hope. I told her don't give up. Because, again, hers will be the only class of kids that don't have opportunity to have played that. I don't know what will happen. It would probably take a lawsuit from somebody to speed it up. But it hasn't gained as much positive momentum as we would like to have, selfishly, to see her back in a Razorback uniform. She's going to have basketball in her life at some point. It just may not be. We had that 2 or 3 week period where we were very hopeful, maybe trying to speak it into existence a little bit, that there'd be that possibility that we'd get to see in a Razorback uniform again. Not a dead point, but it's not gained the momentum that we hoped it would since the last time we talked about it.
Gotcha. Also, we as a group ask a lot about the mentality of the players and how they're getting through the season. This is a really kind of uncharted territory, I think, for the most part for you. How do you go about your day and deal with this type of situation?
Well, luckily it's not, because I can always draw back on that 1 in 25 year at Bentonville. Mm-hmm. And I've done it a lot, to the point that I've even reached out to a couple of those players and said, hey, what was some things we did that got us through, and got us to that state finals 2 years later. And a couple of the feedbacks were just that we never stopped coaching. We never stopped practicing. We never let the scoreboard and the record determine our worth, and it's hard because it's a little bit more publicized than our Bentonville high school days were. It's a bigger picture and not even bringing social media and all that stuff into it. It's a great question, Dudley, and it is something that is uncharted collegiately. So it's grown more grown people. So the way I've done it is just tried to live even more in reality world. And tell kids this is the context of it, and this is the perspective of it. And you have to do that. That's why I had Fuller do the project that he did, to show, hey, look, we could be this record and this record. There's no question we could have been. If we could have bought out of the game against Fairfield. I could have called Corey and gotten the game moved to a year later when we had a more experienced roster. But I don't think that's the way you do it. I think you go through the hard times, and it's going to teach these kids for later on in life. They'll be able to draw back on it. So we live even more in reality world than ever. I make sure that there's hopefully no visible sign to anybody outside that could question that. Are we working as hard as we ever have? And that's an unequivocal yes. Anybody that's been around us for 8 years, that's been through here, can say, I've never seen this group coach this hard. I've never seen them be this detailed. They've not for 1 second let up because of the score. We're over there trying to win the fourth quarter the other night into the last media timeout. And again, I've had people, send me direct messages saying, how Bush League that is, that you're trying to win the fourth quarter of a 20-point game. Again, I I offer up the fact that those people have never been on a competitive team. So our kids were in it. Like, we won 2 quarters. And yeah, that means jack nothing to anybody else but us. But I think it carries us. So you find ways. I go back to my Joe Madden book right here. It's on the top. I mean, there's not a better guy in the world than Joe Madden. Talk about celebrating small victories and finding ways to, how that comes back around to you. So there's not one single person in our orbit. There's 59 of us. That's counting. That's Fuller's in that 59. There's 59 of us that live with it every day. Nutritionists, strength coaches, equipment managers. There's 59 of us. And I don't want one of those people to ever be able to look back and determine a difference between this year and a team that was, going to go to the NCAA tournament during COVID. I don't want anybody to ever say that. I don't want anybody to feel that way. So we hit it running every single day, if that answers your question.
It does. I appreciate it.
You got it.
All right, Josh. Josh is calling the game tomorrow night.
Hey, Coach. Good to see
Hey,
you.
Josh.
Looking forward to seeing you in person.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Carly Keats, the three-pointers have been up and down a little bit this year, but the last 2 is like her best 2-game stretch of the year. Is that just the ebb and flow of the season, or is there anything that you've seen in her confidence-wise or a difference lately?
I love Carly, so I'll tell you the story. I know she won't care. She came off the bench for us last year until, because of injury, she had to start. She was great off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
This year, because of where we're at, she had to start. And for the first few, part of the season, I don't think she played up to her potential like she did last year. So we made a lineup change. And, I think too many people in the world think a lineup change means that you're being demoted or you're being fired or you're being whatever. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
I went to her and said, we're going to make a change because I feel like we're going to be able to get you more and more better shots coming off the bench. She responded. So I, as a coach, wanted to think, hey, that worked, because I came up, that was my idea, man, it worked, So I went to her and I said, hey, I need you to help me here so that for later on in life, I said, did you play better because, we made a little bit of rotational deal and the ball found you better, or you felt more confidence, or did you just play better because you were pissed at me? And she looked up at me, she goes, because I was pissed at you. So I said, okay, whatever it takes. So, that's fine. I've always said, I don't care if our team's all mad at the coach as long as they're mad together. Jenna has had a struggle to make shots. She comes in and plays with a little more calm, maybe a little looseness. So I'm not going to take any credit for it, but I'm also not going to let them take all the credit. I think it's a combination of the 2 things. I think they were pissed. I think it got them focused. I think they had a little bit better preparation because they were out to prove something. So, and that's fine. That's okay. That's part of my job as a coach, is to get the best out of every kid. So, now the question becomes, now you're playing good. Do you all of a sudden start again? I've been trying to de-emphasize starting in basketball since I got into it. And there's ways. I don't know if y'all noticed, we're the only team in the SEC that announces every starter, everybody on our team at a pregame. We announce every single person. We don't do the cannons for just the starters. I've tried to de-emphasize starting because it is a big deal. I had a player tell me one time at Washington, I was like, hey, it doesn't matter whether you start. She goes, the hell it doesn't. She goes, you don't call my name out when I check in the game and shoot off fireworks and let me throw a T-shirt up in the stand. I was like, hey, you're right. So, I wish we could be more like other sports where, the starters aren't as big a deal. But I'm proud of her because a lot of kids today's age would have just thrown up their hands and said, well, I'm just not going to play. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fight it. Coach is an idiot. And, I'm going to go to TikTok and make a video and tell everybody how big of an idiot it is for not starting me. Now look at me now. She hasn't done that. So I give her a lot of credit. It's hard to do. I hope that that gives her confidence. But we've had confidence in her. She's one of those kids that we have not discouraged one time to stop shooting. So I hope whatever it is helps. I hope it continues for both of them. They both obviously had the opportunity to leave with everybody else last year. They did not. They stayed. So believe me, I want nothing but success for those two kids because they were here. So I'm so happy they made some shots the other night. I know they would have traded the win, but I'm glad that – and it's carried over to practice. They've had a couple of good days of practice. I hope it is the shot in the arm they both needed to play happy and not, not be not lack confidence.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great story too.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Talia Parker earlier as being, probably the one that steps up in the biggest way. But just in total generality of their team, is there somebody who is kind of an X factor or a glue player that maybe we don't see or look at because the stats aren't there, but there's a lot of stuff running through them?
Yeah, I'd have to, maybe talk to Joni pregame and ask. She'll give you great input on that one, Josh, when you talk to Joni. From my perspective, Soleil Williams has always been a kid that's been a thorn in our side. Like, we have a hard time with her.
Yeah.
Like, her numbers against us, tend to always be higher than her averages. So I think she's somebody that's very, very capable of that. But, they've got great players. Lauren Ware was recruited by everybody in the country coming out. And the second you forget about Sahara Jones, she's, got you for 15 and 12. So there's not anybody on their roster that's not capable of being. I don't know much about, the Moon player. I think her name's Erica Moon. I know them by numbers. I've seen her play incredibly well too. It could be her. That's why I'm not really, because I haven't been in their practices every day to know. Talia Parker is the one I picked because I watched her play probably 200 games during her summer career, and I've seen her dominate. We recruited her very heavily, obviously unsuccessfully, but seen her play a lot and know what she's capable of. So that's why I picked her. I didn't mean to demean anybody else, but
no.
Yeah.
Speaking of recruiting, is there any interesting or fun recruiting story about you on any of your players that are currently on the roster that maybe hasn't been told or hasn't been out there that we could tell?
On our current team?
Uh-huh.
I'd have to think about that one for a minute. Every single person on our current roster, we found in untraditional ways. It's odd we're sitting here on this call because we were watching film yesterday of that A&M game, and at that point in time, we were 6-6 in the league, 18-9 overall. We didn't win another game in league. We didn't win another game all year. So we were at a turning point that year, and you look at the people we had on the floor, and they're all playing someplace else now. So this time last year, all we were thinking about was all of those kids except for Matt coming back. There was no indication whatsoever. Jersey left before the season. We felt like Talia probably was at this point in time. We knew what was going on there, but there wasn't anybody else that night out there playing that we had any idea because of the new rules wouldn't be on our team. So all the kids that we found in unique, whether it was an unsolicited phone call telling us about a kid, a random video saying, hey, why is this kid still left? We've seen her play. So the answer is really no, I don't have any, because they're all so untraditional, what maybe makes them cool enough themselves that we all found each other different ways. I mean, you don't find a girl in Finland your normal ways. Like, I didn't turn on ESPN or go to, you don't find those. So sorry for the crappy answer, but.
No, that's all right. I was trying to look back and find any connection before the SEC, with coaching with you and her. You guys never played each other when she was at Georgia and you were at Washington. Is there any connection going back previous in your career that you'd met up with her or
with who?
With A&M's coach.
With Joni?
Yeah.
Oh no, we've coached against each other.
I just meant like before the SEC.
100%. We were there used to be a thing called Villa 7 that was a summer event in which Nike brought up and coming young assistant coaches to Portland or to Beaverton. We were both part of that. We got into some cool groups, and we were kind of in that up and coming. but yeah, we've gotten very close over the years. Very close. We both have young families, although I'm a lot older than her. I do remember recruiting her. I was here at Arkansas. You know, Coach Blair had a relationship with her, and she got started at Louisiana Tech. We just seemed to find a we were in a lot of the same gyms. Are you going to see her before the game? Are y'all going to go to her shoot around, or are y'all going to visit with her?
We're supposed to talk to her later today.
All right. I'm not going to tell the story. I'll let her tell it from her perspective. But we had a moment in a gym in Atlanta, Georgia, in which there was a case of a mistaken active gunman.
Oh my goodness.
So
I will definitely ask her about it.
I will let her tell the story to you, and you can, and if she chooses to share, I'll let you, and then I'll further it, but just see where she goes with that.
Okay.
I'll give you a lead.
And where were you at during that time?
The World Congress Center in Atlanta. She'll remember it. There won't be. She won't have to go. Oh, let me think. She'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. See, these are the great stories you give us that I love.
Yep.
All right. Anything specific you'd want us to talk about or highlight on the broadcast tomorrow or bring up?
No, y'all always nail it.
Okay. Thank you for the time, Coach.
You got
Good
it.
luck tomorrow.
All right.
Thanks,
Safe travels.